Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Yesterday I uploaded a video in which I told you that the authorities in Berlin banned the planned protests against the regime in Berlin and also, first and foremost, the health restrictions, measures, and regulations that we have right now. The protests against that were banned, or many of them, not all of them, were banned. And we had a similar situation 1 year ago, where then the higher court, the Oberverwaltungsgericht, they revised that ruling. But this year it was different. This year the Oberverwaltungsgericht decided differently. They choose to side with the lower court, and they upheld the ban, which, to me at least, begs the question, what was different this year? I mean, it's the same organizers. Oh, I think, yeah, it's pretty much the same organizers. And the situation, the health situation, and the constitutional situation, all that stuff is pretty much the same. So what was different this year? I don't get it. I really don't understand. But that's pretty much besides the point. What I want to tell you today is what happened actually on the weekend in Berlin. So I got a lot of comments, of course. People said, oh, it's really weird. Why do people apply for protests? If you want to protest the government, you should just do it. Yeah, guess what? That's what many people did. They came to Berlin anyway. And they had some sporadic or some unofficial meetings or walks here and there. And of course, the authorities and law enforcement, they tried to stop them. So it was not allowed to take a walk in Berlin, to walk on the streets as a German citizen, as a German taxpayer. And these protesters, they didn't do a lot, really. I mean, they were walking, yes, and they had some banners with them. But when you look at left-wing protesters, for example, like self-proclaimed environmentalists or something like that, what are they doing? I mean, they're entering construction sites or private property, restricted areas, really, right, where you're not allowed to be because it's private property, right? They're breaking and entering, basically, and then they're throwing objects, dangerous objects, combustible liquids that they set on fire, and so on and so on. And that is called then by the media a mostly peaceful protest. Of course, also in Germany, by the way, they use pretty much the same language patterns, the same speech codes, yeah, to classify or to describe these actions, these criminal actions by left-wingers. None of that really happened yesterday, and but quite the opposite, I would say. I spent over an hour. I mean, my resources are limited. I cannot use really more time on that, but I spent over an hour to go through reports, looked at pictures, looked at video footage that was taken and posted, and I saw a lot of material where law enforcement really instigated confrontations, where they charged into peaceful protesters, where they were battling it out with grandmothers and senior citizens and children and families, and who were just minding their own business and just walking on the street. That is pretty disturbing for a German to see, because we are used to these pictures from other countries, maybe, or from some crisis area, or but in Germany, I think there was a time. Also in Stuttgart, and this is Swabia, right, where a lot of these protesters come from, actually. A lot of these organizers, a big group, where they come from. That was when in Stuttgart a train station was planned and built. Stuttgart 21 is the name of the project, so 21st century, something like that, to change the train station in Stuttgart. And that created a huge mobilization in the local population. They were protesting against that train station and so on. And that was, from recent memory at least, the last time that peaceful or mostly peaceful protesters, and this time I really mean it, even though they were lefties and I don't like them, but to be fair, they did a little bit, like they chained themselves to trees and they entered construction sites, but they didn't do that much in terms of violence. But then there was an incident with a water cannon, yeah, and that shocked a lot of these middle class Germans, right? Like, oh, our state is using force against us, against the center, against the good Germans, against the taxpayers, against the peaceful, educated citizens, right? That shocked a lot of people, but maybe some people forgot about that, or it wasn't so. Wasn't big news outside of Swabia. I don't know if that was. Well, I followed it a little bit back then, but I don't know if everybody did the same. But at least now I can say that these disturbing pictures we've seen from Berlin from the weekend, where law enforcement officers in full gear were charging into groups of grandmothers and peaceful families. That is something that Germans have not really seen that much. Maybe last summer, but I would say not in that quantity and intensity, maybe. News reports are claiming that law enforcement was also attacked by protesters, but I couldn't see any footage. And by the way, I'm not claiming it didn't happen. I just said I looked for over an hour and I couldn't find it. So I'm just saying, if these events were really violent and good propaganda material for our state, then I wonder why they don't show that to everybody, and why even when I try to look for it for over an hour, I don't find it. And there was one instance on Spiegel.de where they had a huge headline that everyone reads, of course, where they said, "Oh, protesters attack officers." Yeah, and then in the body of the text, in the body of the article, they didn't mention it anymore. So that makes me a little suspicious. Once again, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I couldn't really find any evidence for it. But for the opposite case, for officers attacking citizens, I found dozens of very, very crass videos and very clear footage on that. So I think that case was pretty one-sided. It is law enforcement, it was the officers, at the behest of the green commie government of Berlin, or the authorities of Berlin that are dominated by the Green Party, the SPD, and I think Die Linke also. They just don't like these protesters, so they ordered the police to crack down on them. And all let's say, it is not really unexpected, or it is not surprising that today all the media outlets are claiming that these protesters are dangerous and they're radical and they're right-winged. But I explained that many times before, and I can do it again. These people are not right-wingers. I know how right-wingers look like. I know how they talk. I'm not connected to any right-wing groups because I was pretty much raised among lefties. I consider myself a right-winger since I'm 15 years old, but I was never among right-wingers. I was raised, as I said, and socialized, if you wish, among commies and lefties. I mean, all my schoolmates and fellow university students and colleagues, and they're all centrists, lefties, or I would say bourgeois commies or something like that, right? So I know how leftists look like. I know how they talk, and by self-study, let's say, not by personal acquaintance, because there were just no right-wingers around, but I know how right-wingers look like. And these people that were in trouble with law enforcement on the weekend, these people who were sprayed with chemicals, who were beaten, who were kicked, who were smashed to the ground, they were not right-wingers. They are probably people that I have not a lot in common with. And except for this hygiene topic at the moment, I probably don't agree on anything with these people. Yeah. Maybe some libertarian freedom issues that, yeah, I probably also am okay with, or that I can understand at least, or find some common ground with. But these people are not right wingers. They had rastas, yeah, or like these dreadlocks. That's how you call it. Sorry, in English you call it dreadlocks. In German, yeah, it's a different name. But they had dreadlocks. They had T-shirts of really left-wing punk bands, and they were these tree-hugging hippie kind of people. Sorry, and the media is writing now that these people are dangerous right wingers. I think I'm in clown world now. And I mean, yes, we had this last summer a little bit, but this time it is absolutely ridiculous. It is crazy. It's like these people with dreadlocks and guitars and who walk barefoot and who are, yeah, probably some commies. They are labeled as right wingers now. And the SPD, the Social Democratic Party of Germany, they are talking about banning these groups now and putting them on some kind of watch list. And all they're saying is that we should protect our constitution. They want freedom and they want choice over their body and medical decisions. And that's all that they're really saying. And yes, they don't like the state too much, but that doesn't mean they're right wingers. That just means that they're probably anarchists or commies or something like that. Well, not really Stalinist commies, but I think you know what I'm saying, right? Like punks and hippies and these kinds of people. Um, yeah, it is really crazy. And what I'm trying to say here is, yeah, uh, even though it was banned and it was deemed illegal and 600 people, I think, were arrested, Germans went out to protest nonetheless. But it wasn't right wingers. Yeah? It wasn't German. Well, there were some German flags. There were some people who consider themselves patriots. But from the pictures and the footage that I've seen, I wasn't there, of course. I'm in another area right now. But it looked to me that most of them were lefties, really. And that is all I can say about that. Anyway, let me know what you think about that. So you can say, yay, Germans went out to protest anyway, just like the French, not in these huge numbers, but still. But then again, you can also say they're not patriots, and probably most of these French protesters are also not patriots. But at this point, what does it matter if there is some kind of Querfront here, some kind of united, or, well, some kind of front across political parties? I mean, that's something you can respect, something you can work with, something that, I don't know, maybe collaboration can grow out of in the future. And that is probably what the authorities, what the state is afraid of. They don't want people to talk to each other. They want to divide people and to further that contempt, hatred, and division among the people. And that is why they are very afraid of these protests against these hygiene rules. And just towards the end of the video, I want to say that today's video is once again a experiment, if you allow me, because yesterday's video was not really anything outrageous. I mean, not anything that was crazy or where I said some bad things or used some graphical language or showed something weird. But you know, I show these snippets of newspaper articles and stuff like that. And today I just decided to film while I'm hiking, and maybe YouTube is treating these kinds of videos differently, because I got a message instantly after uploading yesterday that my video would not be promoted. It will be hidden more or less by the algorithm. At least they're nice enough to tell me right away so that I'm informed. But let's see if this beautiful German forest footage here will be treated differently. I will see that once I upload. Catch you guys again later. Servus, Kameraden.